Okay, so get this. You know how archaeologists can figure out how old a fossil is?
Yeah.
Turns out they use something called carbon dating. And at the heart of it all
Okay.
is this really cool concept called radioactive decay.
Hmm.
Might sound kind of like something out of sci-fi movie,
Right.
but trust me,
Okay.
it's way more interesting
Okay.
and way more relevant to your life than you might think.
Mm-hmm.
Today,
Okay.
we are diving
Right.
into the world of radioactive decay
Okay.
with help from a website
Okay.
packed with interactive physics simulations
Mm-hmm.
designed for high school and college students.
Mm-hmm.
We'll break it down in a way that makes sense, even if you haven't thought about physics since, well, high school.
I think a lot of people hear radioactive decay
Yeah.
and like their minds immediately jump to like Chernobyl
Oh,
or Spider-Man.
right.
But it's actually a natural process that's happening
Here.
all around us.
Yeah.
All the time.
Exactly. So our mission today
Okay.
is to understand what radioactive decay actually is.
Right.
Explore this crucial concept of half-life
Mm-hmm.
and see how this invisible process shapes the world around us.
Sounds good to me. Where should we start?
Let's start with the basics.
Okay.
This website defines radioactive decay as unstable atomic nuclei losing energy
Okay.
by emitting radiation.
Right. And this might sound complicated,
Yeah.
but think of it like popcorn kernels
Okay.
in a hot pan.
Okay. Yeah.
Each kernel represents a radioactive atom.
Right.
You can't predict which kernel will pop next,
Uh-huh.
but you know that over time,
Sure.
more and more of them will.
So it's like these atoms are just waiting to pop and release energy.
Exactly. And the way they pop is by emitting radiation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, each type of atom has its own unique pop rate,
Okay.
which brings us to this crucial concept of half-life.
Okay, so half-life is basically how long it takes for half those popcorn kernels
Right.
or radioactive atoms
Uh-huh.
to pop.
Precisely. And what's fascinating is that the half-life is constant
Right.
for a given isotope.
Mm.
It's like a fingerprint
Okay.
for that specific atom.
Yeah.
Carbon-14, for example,
Mm-hmm.
has a half-life of about 5,730 years.
Wow.
That means if you start with, say, 100 grams of carbon-14,
Okay.
after 5,730 years, you'll have 50 grams left.
And that's how scientists use carbon dating to determine the age of fossils. It's like a time machine.
Exactly.
By measuring the amount of carbon-14 left in a fossil, they can figure out how long ago that organism died.
Exactly. And you can actually visualize this whole process on the website we're using.
Okay.
They have this cool simulation
Uh-huh.
where you can adjust the half-life
Okay.
from a fraction of a second
Right.
to several seconds
Okay.
and watch how that changes the rate of decay.
So you could actually see those metaphorical popcorn kernels popping at different speeds depending on their half-life. It's like having a physics lab right in your browser.
Right.
Now,
Okay.
the website also delves into some formulas
Yeah.
related to radioactive decay.
Yeah, the formulas can seem intimidating
Right.
at first,
Yeah.
but they're really just a way to express this popcorn popping process
Okay.
mathematically.
So maybe instead of diving headfirst into the formulas, we can just highlight the key idea here.
Right.
These formulas help us predict how many atoms will have popped
Right.
after a certain amount of time
Good.
based on their half-life.
Exactly. And what's even cooler is that the website lets you play around with the variables in these formulas
Yeah.
and see how that affects the outcome
Mm.
in real time.
Right.
It's a really interactive way to get a feel for how these calculations work.
So we've got the basic idea of radioactive decay, the concept of half-life, and we know there are formulas involved.
Yeah.
But why should you, listening right now, care about any of this? It's not just some abstract scientific concept.
Right.
Radioactive decay has some real-world implications.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it goes way beyond just carbon dating.
Okay.
Radioactive decay plays a crucial role in things like medical imaging, nuclear power,
Right.
and even understanding the risks
Sure.
and benefits of radiation exposure.
Okay, so it's not just about figuring out how old a dinosaur bone is.
Not at all. We're just scratching the surface here.
Right.
In the next part of our deep dive,
All right.
we'll explore some of these real-world applications in more detail.
Okay.
You might be surprised at how much radioactive decay impacts your everyday life. You know, one of the most fascinating applications of radioactive decay is in the medical field.
Oh, yeah.
It's used in
Okay.
this powerful imaging technique
Mm-hmm.
called a PT scan. It's
Right.
short for positron emission tomography.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of PET scans.
Yeah,
They let doctors see inside the body, right?
that's exactly.
But how does that involve radioactive decay? It
Wow.
seems kind of counterintuitive.
Right.
Aren't we always trying to avoid radiation?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's true that high levels of radiation can be harmful,
Right.
but in carefully controlled doses,
Okay.
radioactive isotopes can actually be incredibly useful in medicine.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more about how PET scans work.
So in a PET scan,
Okay.
a small amount
Mm-hmm.
of a radioactive tracer
Okay.
is injected into the body.
Right.
This tracer
Uh-huh.
is designed to bind
Okay.
to specific molecules or cells
Yeah.
that doctors want to study.
So it's like a tiny radioactive beacon that highlights specific areas of interest inside the body?
Exactly. For
Okay.
example,
Yeah.
if doctors are looking for signs of cancer,
Right.
they might use a tracer that binds to glucose
Uh-huh.
because cancer cells tend to consume glucose at a much higher rate
Right.
than normal cells.
So the tracer would accumulate in areas with higher metabolic activity, like where there might be a tumor.
Precisely.
Wow.
And as the tracer decays,
Mm-hmm.
it emits positrons,
Okay.
which interact with electrons
Right.
in the body,
Yeah.
releasing gamma rays
Okay.
that can be detected by a scanner.
So doctors can essentially track the movement and concentration of this radioactive tracer inside the body and create images based on the gamma rays emitted.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's like creating a map of metabolic activity,
Right.
highlighting areas
Okay.
where things are working differently
Yeah.
than they should be.
Wow. That's amazing. So radioactive decay isn't just about figuring out the age of old stuff.
Right.
It's also helping doctors diagnose and treat diseases in real time.
It really is.
Yeah.
And P scans are just one example. Radioactive isotopes are also used in radiation therapy
Okay.
to treat cancer
Uh-huh.
and in radiopharmaceuticals to diagnose and treat a variety of other conditions.
It's incredible how something that sounds potentially dangerous can be harnessed for so much good. It's like turning a villain into a superhero.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And speaking of potentially dangerous but powerful applications,
Yeah.
we have to talk about nuclear power.
Yeah. Nuclear power, always a hot topic.
Yeah.
How does radioactive decay fit into that picture?
Well, nuclear power relies on the process of nuclear fission,
Right.
where the nucleus of a heavy atom,
Okay.
like uranium,
Uh-huh.
is split,
Mm-hmm.
releasing an enormous amount of energy.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
this splitting process
Right. Yeah.
is a form of radioactive decay.
So we're basically harnessing the power of those popping atoms on a massive scale to generate electricity.
Exactly.
Okay.
But as you mentioned,
Yeah.
nuclear power comes with
Sure.
its own set of challenges and risks.
Right.
The potential for accidents,
Mm-hmm.
the long-term storage of radioactive waste,
Right.
and the proliferation of nuclear weapons
Mm.
are all serious concerns
Yeah.
that have to be carefully considered.
It seems like with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yeah.
It's a reminder that while radioactive decay has amazing applications, we need to make sure we're using it safely and responsibly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Understanding the fundamentals of radioactive decay is essential for having informed discussions about these complex issues.
Right.
It helps us make informed decisions about our energy choices.
Yeah.
And advocate for
Right.
safe and responsible practices in the nuclear industry.
Okay, so we've seen how radioactive decay is used to uncover secrets from the past, diagnose and treat diseases, and even power our modern world.
Right.
But there's one thing I'm still curious about.
Okay.
We've talked about how the half-life of an isotope is a constant value. But is there anything that can actually change the half-life of an isotope?
That's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
And it leads us into some
Okay.
pretty mind-bending territory. For a long time,
Yeah.
scientists believed that the half-life of an isotope
Uh-huh.
was an absolute unchangeable property.
Like saying the speed of light is always constant. It's just a fundamental law of nature, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But in recent years,
Okay.
there have been some tantalizing hints
Mm-hmm.
that under certain extreme conditions,
Okay.
the half-life of an isotope
Yeah.
might actually be able to change.
Wait, Really? What kind of extreme conditions are we talking about? Black holes? Oh, supernovas?
Well, one area of research
Okay.
is exploring what happens.
Yeah.
Radioactive isotopes under incredibly high pressures,
Okay.
like those found deep within stars or planets.
So the intense gravitational forces could potentially affect the rate at which those atoms pop?
That's the idea.
What?
It's like squeezing those atomic nuclei even tighter,
Yeah.
possibly making them more or less likely
Right.
to decay.
Wow, that's incredible. So the half-life that we consider a constant might not be so constant after all, at least not in every corner of the universe.
It seems that way.
Wow.
And another avenue of research
Okay.
is looking at what happens
Right.
to radioactive isotopes
Okay.
when they're exposed to
Hmm.
incredibly strong magnetic fields.
So the magnetic fields could somehow influence the behavior of those tiny particles within the nucleus.
Exactly.
Mm.
This is all cutting-edge research.
Yeah.
And
Right.
there's still a lot we don't know.
But it's fascinating to think that something as fundamental as the half-life of an isotope might not be as fixed as we once thought.
It really challenges our understanding of the universe
Mhm.
and opens up a whole new realm of possibilities.
This is why I love science. There's always more to learn and discover.
Right.
But that's a great segue
Okay.
into our final point.
Right. Remember at the beginning, we were
Yeah.
talking about visualizing radioactive decay
Right.
and those interactive simulations.
Right. They're really helpful tools
Yeah.
for understanding these abstract concepts.
Well, the website we've been using mentions a video
Yeah.
explaining how the simulation works.
Mhm.
It got me thinking,
Yeah.
what other visuals or tools could help make science more accessible and engaging, especially for those of us who aren't physicists?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think things like interactive simulations, animations,
Right?
and even games can be really powerful tools
Right.
for making complex scientific concepts more relatable and easier to grasp.
I agree.
Yeah.
Especially in today's world where we're bombarded with information.
Right.
We need ways to make science
Uh-huh.
fun and engaging
Right.
so that people are excited to learn about it.
Absolutely. It's all about sparking curiosity
Yeah.
and making people want to explore these fascinating topics
Yeah.
further.
Hmm.
Who knows what amazing discoveries are waiting to be made if we can just get more people interested in the world of science.
Yeah, it's like that saying, the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. It's humbling and exciting at the same time.
Absolutely. And it's what keeps science moving forward. That constant drive to explore the unknown and push the boundaries of our understanding.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into radioactive decay, what's the one key takeaway you'd want our listener to walk away with?
That's a great question. I think the biggest takeaway is that radioactive decay is more than just a scientific concept. It's a fundamental process that's woven into the fabric of our world. It's happening all around us, shaping our past, present, and future.
Yeah, from carbon dating ancient artifacts to the medical technologies that save lives, it's clear that radioactive decay is both incredibly powerful and surprisingly relevant to our everyday lives. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that while we've learned a lot about radioactive decay, there's still so much more to discover.
Right.
Who knows what amazing applications we might find in the future, or what mind-blowing discoveries are waiting to be made about the nature of the universe itself.
It's a reminder that science is a journey, not a destination. And it's a journey that anyone can be a part of.
Absolutely. Whether you're a student, a scientist, or just someone who's curious about the world around them, there's always something new to learn and explore.
Well said. So to our listener, we encourage you to keep that curiosity alive. Dive deeper into the topics that interest you, ask questions, and never stop exploring.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to make the next groundbreaking discovery about radioactive decay or any other scientific wonder that captures your imagination.
And remember, you don't need a fancy lab coat or a degree in physics to be a scientist. All you need is a curious mind and a willingness to learn.
Thanks for joining us on this radioactive adventure. We hope you enjoyed the journey as much as we did.
It was a pleasure exploring this fascinating topic with you. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.